back to channel YouTube Temanku Sehat. Balik lagi sama saya Maria dan Dr. Anissa SPPD. Hari ini kita mau ngebahas tentang masih COVID-19, tapi beberapa kita bahas dalam jurnal-jurnal bahasa Inggris dan dijelaskan juga dalam bahasa Inggris oleh Dr. Anissa karena banyaknya permintaan dari Temanku Sehat untuk dibahas dalam bahasa Inggris. So today we will discuss about the most popular question about COVID-19. So don't forget to share, like, and subscribe channel YouTube Temanku Sehat. So this is the first question, the most popular question about COVID-19. The number one is, how dangerous is COVID-19? Halo dokter.
Halo Mbak Maria, apa kabar? How are you?
Baik, very good.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay dokter, this is the question about the most popular question about COVID-19.
Okay.
The number one is, how dangerous is COVID-19?
Okay, one first.
Okay. First, okay.
Okay. We get this information from so many people that so much question that, so we take the most popular or common question. Number one is, how dangerous is COVID-19? Okay, if we talk about how dangerous is COVID-19, we can speak from different aspects. Okay, one, the aspects of mortality. As we know, the mortality of COVID-19 is around 1 until 3%. So it's not so much high actually if we talk about mortality. If we compare, for instance, or for example, in Ebola infection or another more heavy infection, that the mortality rate is more or above 10%. But this COVID-19, we know the mortality atau angka kematiannya hanya 1-3%. So from the mortality actually is not the point of the dangerous itself. Kemudian poin lain yang kita bisa lihat Mbak Maria, another point is COVID-19 about the easiness of infection or the transmission rates. Jadi berapa mudah dia menginfeksi. For example, as a measles infection or pox, chicken pox, campak ya atau cacar, the infection 1% can infected more than 10 until 12%. Jadi satu orang yang terkena infeksi campak misalnya di rumah lagi ada yang terinfeksi, if you have person in your home or that have infection, usually measles infection or chickenpox, usually we ask to also home isolation, sama diisolasi karena dia bisa menularkan banyak. But we can know, as we know in COVID-19 infection is around 1% can make infection to around 2 or 3. Jadi hanya satu orang hanya menularkan sekitar 2-3 orang. Jadi based on this, how dangerous is in this point of view from the mortality and from the transmission rate, actually is not that much we have to too much afraid. But the problem, masalahnya adalah the COVID-19 infection is new. So nobody have immune. Jadi tidak ada yang punya imunitas atau kekebalan antibody terhadap infeksi ini. So everybody become afraid. Semua orang jadi takut. And also of course because new, we don't develop vaccine yet. Jadi belum ada vaksin. Nah, because of this, it's become too much people afraid, and if we can say, kalau mau dibilang berlebihan, if too hyper or something maybe, but of course it's too much different aspect that we have to, of course kalau kita bicara angka, if we talk about percentage, okay, it's little, but if we talk about this our life, of course we afraid. So this dangerous of COVID-19 is because this is new, because we don't have antibody or any resistance to this new COVID-19, even though we already know the another virus before that. We know this, we have SARS-CoV-1 before. Corona adalah SARS-CoV-2, jadi coronavirus 2 ya. COVID-19 adalah virus SARS-2, CO2. Tapi sebelumnya juga kita sudah mengenal, we already know SARS-CoV-1 and this coronavirus before we also already know. But COVID-19 is new, so yeah, like that Mbak Maria.
Oke dok, jadi kan this COVID-19 is not that dangerous, but
in aspect of mortality and infectious,
Okay, but because this is new, so
nobody have antibody or immune of from this.
This is the second
something new make people afraid, of course.
Okay, this
more.
is
because we don't know, we're more afraid.
Okay, dok. So this is a second question about COVID-19. This is related to the first question. Is the COVID-19 more safer than flu?
Yeah, of course. As we know, jadi apakah COVID-19 lebih berbahaya daripada flu biasa? Dari literatur kepustakaan from the literature, we know that COVID-19 around 10 times more dangerous than usual flu.
Influenza.
Jadi lebih berbahaya sekitar 10 kali daripada flu, juga dari segi morbiditas, karena bisa mengakibatkan pneumonia, kemudian sindrom respiratory distress akut, jadi sulit bernafas, sehingga mengakibatkan walaupun pada populasi tertentu yang rentan, maybe next question, itu memang mortalitasnya bisa mencapai 1-3%, sekitar 10 kali lebih daripada flu.
Oke, Dr. Anissa tadi membahas about population. So, this is the next question is, who is the most at risk for COVID-19 infection, Dok?
Yeah, I think all audience on all of us already know the most vulnerable or at risk. Jadi yang paling mudah terkena atau beresiko atau rentan mengalami infeksi corona, as we know around 80% of COVID-19 infection is asymptomatic or mild. Jadi sebenarnya 80% dari yang terinfeksi corona COVID-19 itu mengalami tidak bergejala atau hanya ringan. But if it become moderate or severe, usually it's happen to vulnerable population. Jadi biasanya aging. Jadi satu adalah usia, bisa di atas above 50 years old or above 60 or 70, different literature or different reference. Jadi di atas 50, 60 atau 70 tahun tentu harus lebih berhati-hati karena lebih rentan mengalami infeksi COVID-19. So the recommendation for these people also have to be more social distancing more, okay? And if you use the mask also must be maybe medical mask, and you avoid crowded. And then if you go somewhere, you have to careful to touch something. Okay, and harus of course hand wash, with water or alcohol. And then after age adalah people with immune compromise. Who is people with immune compromise? That people have maybe chronic disease or already like diabetes or chronic kidney disease, chronic liver disease. Jadi penyakit hati kronik, penyakit ginjal kronik, people with cancer, people with HIV. Jadi orang dengan HIV. Kemudian people with autoimmune disease like systemic lupus erythematosus, pasien-pasien lupus and another autoimmune. Okay, this also vulnerable or more risk to become infection with COVID-19, or if they get the infection, they can become not only mild, moderate until severe. So have to be more careful. So the recommendation also usually we in hospitalize, kita rawat in hospital.
And doctor, how about the smokers?
Oh, very good question. Yeah. Also the people with risk of this infection, because this coronavirus, of course, one of the target organ is the pulmonary, paru target organnya. So of course people with the compromise lung function, jadi dengan fungsi paru yang kurang baik, like people with asthma, maybe have tuberculosis, and then the pulmonary chronic disease, obstructive chronic disease, and also smoker, because smoke is a content about at least 4,000 chemical that very bad and like poison and toxin for our lung. So the regular and the physiological mechanism of our lung become ruin or become down because of these toxins. Let's say for example, if we have the cells that can clear up our mucus, jadi ada sel-sel yang akan membersihkan mukus dari saluran nafas kita, it will become compromised and will become the cell itself become broken because of this toxin. Jadi rusak sel-sel itu akibat rokok. This one of the example. So of course this COVID-19 infection will become more easy, to happen with in people that smoke. That's one of the example of why smokers more easy to get COVID-19. Even though we still need data and research furthermore about this, but this clear mechanism of course make us to give recommendation, strong recommendation if possible with more research that to stop smoking.
To stop smoking. Okay. Don't forget to stop smoking to
not only for the COVID-19
but for your health, your lungs. Okay.
Correct.
So this is the next question about COVID-19 transmit. Dok, can COVID-19 be transmitted through food? About food?
Okay, this so many questions from the audience or from the people and patient about can COVID-19 transmitted through the food. Until now, not confirmed. Jadi nggak confirm bahwa COVID-19 bisa menular lewat makanan, especially if we cook the food. Kalau kita masak kan itu dipanaskan, Mbak Maria, sehingga pada suhu masak kita tersebut COVID-19 already die when we process the food. Jadi same with another bacteria, so it's considered safe and from the food, but we have to take care. Jadi kita harus hati-hati, tetapi kita harus hati-hati dalam handling the food itself, dalam kita memegang. Ya, let's say the people that prepare your food coughing to the food, so have droplet inside your food and you and you touch. So especially the transmission of COVID-19 is from three, Mbak Maria. Jadi 3 from let's say if it is contact to your hand and your hand touch your mouth or your nose, and also your eyes. Some reference style also can from your eyes. Jadi yang harus kita jaga kalau kita sudah memegang sesuatu yang mungkin kita curigai mengandung droplet atau aerosol yang kita udah bahas mungkin di sebelumnya bagaimana penularan COVID, mungkin di episode berapa? 2 ya. Nah, jika kita ada kecurigaan itu di tangan kita, kita tidak boleh menyentuh mulut atau hidung atau mata kita. Nah, so careful about the packaging itself. If you order online, GoFood, order online, or somebody buy for you, so from the package itself you have to careful. If you touch, you have to, of course you have to wash your hand, and then don't touch any of your mouth or your nose or your eyes.
Okay. Tadi about the food. Now this is more question about the COVID-19. Can we transmit through feces or urine?
Okay, another question is can be COVID-19 transmitted through the urine or feces? Bisakah COVID-19 ditransmisikan atau ditularkan melalui urine atau feces? Let's say you have your family member that confirm positive with COVID-19 in your house. Okay, actually not enough data to say this that COVID-19 can transmitted through stool, feces or urine, but there is one reported cases that the stool or the feces and urine have confirmed with the virus. Jadi sebenarnya datanya nggak banyak Mbak Maria, nggak cukup. Tapi ada satu laporan kasus memang ditemukan virus COVID-19 ini diekskresikan pada urin ya dan kotoran atau feses ini. So my recommendation or based on this, if you have people that you know or even you don't know, because of course most of the COVID-19 positive also sometimes have symptoms and you don't know. So generally just keep the hygiene of your toilet. Jadi kalau menggunakan toilet ya fesesnya ya urinnya kalau bisa ya benar-benar jangan sampai ya jadi benar-benar habis personal hygiene-nya habis pakai toilet ya harus benar-benar dibersihkan. Kalau perlu kan kita seka sendiri dengan mungkin dengan disinfektan ya sebelum orang lain menggunakan, before another another family member will use the toilet.
Okay, that's about food and feces, urine, and this is the more question about the coronavirus transmit. Can I get the coronavirus disease from swimming?
Okay, this also become too much questions. So it seems that so many people like swims. You like swims?
A little bit.
Okay, so based on reference also that from the data and research suggests that actually because almost all the swimming pool in the public facility use this disinfectant like chlorine or something, so the virus it's already die
because of the chlorine.
Yeah, because of disinfectant or the chlorine that used in the swimming pool for public. So it's very unlikely that swimming itself with can transmitted the coronavirus COVID-19 infection. But why? Pertanyaan. Jadi sebenarnya kan ada klorinnya atau ada apa tuh yang kalau di itu Mbak Maria kalau gitu kan ada baunya itu ya, disinfektannya itu. Jadi sebenarnya itu sudah cukup because COVID-19 is vulnerable, the membranes is jadi virusnya itu punya membran yang easy to break, yang gampang rusak, easy to broken, so it's easy to kill the COVID-19 virus. Jadi gampang matinya sebenarnya kalau dikasih klorin ya dia udah nggak ada sehingga safe. Pertanyaannya the question why still until now hampir semua facility is tutup kan, close, is because of the behavior and the race and the crowding itself. Jadi kenapa? Karena itu kan perkumpulan orang kumpul banyak, is crowding. Jadi itu satu dari risk factor juga. Kedua, kalau di orang berenang itu suka main kan, suka main deket-deket close contact, kemudian suka teriak-teriak. Bahkan dikatakan in the reference itself. Jadi when you shouting and playing with your friends, so if you talking loud, it can transmit it the droplet. Okay, you're not sick, but how if you have it? But you asymptomatic, so you can transmitted the virus to another person. Jadi itu lebih ke behavior, lebih ke perilaku manusianya saat sedang berenang. Nanti dia akan teriak-teriak, dia akan kalau nggak seru ya.
Oh iya.
Kita teriak juga kan kalau berenang. Kalau it's not fun ya kalau nggak semua. Kalau
just swim,
not play.
Not play.
Okay, and then another behavior is usually you spit in the water. Jadi suka ngeludah juga. Kita suka ngeludah.
Sometimes because keselak. What is keselak in English?
Yeah, so if it is directly you spit and the droplet or aerosol come in near the people before before that droplet go to the water directly, so it's still infection. Also another reason is swimming pool is one of the public facility that the contact will be high traffic contact surfaces. So jadi banyak Misalnya kamu naik apa itu?
Perosotannya
Perosotannya
apa ya
namanya.
Inggrisnya?
Ya, kamu akan touch kan, akan pegang, terus dipegang lagi, dipegang. Jadi itu disebutnya adalah high traffic surfaces. Jadi banyak orang nyentuh. Let's say another high traffic surfaces is like escalator, keyboard. In toilet, if now you see in the toilet facility or restroom, usually or for water tap, they will use on the lift elevator also. This too much high traffic, too much people touch this. Now they use foot
sensor or
foot. So with foot you touch, you push. So to push what floor. So you don't use your hand again. Yeah, no, in airport already like this in Indonesia also. Hore.
Akhirnya. Sorry. Okay, Dokter, that's some question about the transmit, and this is the more question about transmit. It's this is from a mom.
Okay.
Can I breastfeed my baby if I'm severely ill with COVID-19 disease?
Okay. So another question that important also, ya, because we have to really understand this. Jadi beberapa menanyakan kan, iya, busu ibu yang menyusui, breastfeeding mother, ya, can we give our baby? Can we breastfeed our baby? Bisakah kita menyusui bayi kita yang baru lahir? Especially this for exclusive breastfeeding 0 until 6 months. Jadi dari 0 sampai 6 bulan itu adalah yang wajib untuk eksklusif ya. Kita bicara untuk 0 sampai 6 bulan ini. Because of the benefit of the breastfeeding itself, it's too much. Ya, the breastfeeding or the milk from the mother have too much vitamin, antibody, good for the baby, and also the close contact, good for antibody and immune system for the baby itself. So sangat banyak kebaikan-kebaikan dari ASI eksklusif ini. Seperti ASI itu ada banyak sekali vitamin yang tidak bisa digantikan dengan susu formula, kemudian ada antibody, ada kolostrum, kemudian juga tidak alergi, dan bagaimana close contact saat ibu dengan bayinya itu sangat dibutuhkan oleh bayi. So all this benefit we cannot cancel because of unconfirmed of afraidness to COVID-19. Jadi jangan sampai karena kita takut, nggak jadi deh, cancel aja menyusuinya, kan ibunya, let's say we suspected or confirmed case of the mother, misalnya ibunya udah positif corona. Ternyata rekomendasinya adalah from the research, jadi penelitian, most of the time the virus itself not come into the milk of the mother. So even the mother is confirmed when they check the milk, not contain the virus. The PCR of the, actually the not all the virus but the fragmented virus also it's not fine. Most of the case, even though they find, sometimes they find, even though they find in the milk itself, it not come into the baby, so not make the baby infection. So even the baby drink the milk from the mother and the milk have the virus, the baby still negative.
How come?
Because they have antibody also from the mother. And this is the data, the research data. Have very small case, the baby also become positive.
Very small case.
Okay. But even though positive, it's like we know the infection of COVID-19 in the children on the child is very mild or asymptomatic. Jadi sebagai let's say ibunya itu udah positif, udah confirm COVID-19 positif, swabnya PCR-nya positif, biasanya ASI-nya enggak. Kalaupun ada di ASI-nya, biasanya nggak kena ke bayinya juga. This is interpretation of the data ya, tapi angkanya ada, we can give you the link of the journal. Kalaupun dia positif juga, di ASI-nya ternyata yang cuma sedikit itu disekresikan di ASI-nya itu ada fragmented virus, so not living virus. Jadi PCR itu kan kita meriksa bagian segmen dari virus, not living or replicated virus. Jadi bukan virus yang hidup atau bereplikasi kan. Kalaupun dia positif di ASI-nya, tidak, most of the case biasanya tidak menular ke bayinya, tetap stay negatif, tetap negatif. Tapi ada sedikit we found maybe one, let's say one confirm positif the baby. Jadi mungkin jadi positif nih, terkena, nggak asimptomatik juga, maksudnya asimptomatik juga, tidak ada gejala juga, dan karena infeksi COVID-19 pada bayi atau anak itu ringan. Karena ada beberapa faktor, salah satu faktornya dikatakan karena sistem imunnya belum mature, belum matang. Jadi salah satunya fungsi sel T-nya, sehingga tidak menjadi berat. Bingung nggak? Karena COVID-19 berat itu karena reaksi sistem imun yang berlebihan. Jadi karena justru reaksi yang berlebihan. Jadi kalau dia belum mature, dia belum matang, malah tidak berlebihan, sehingga itu salah satu teori ya, sehingga infeksi COVID-19 pada baby or child itu biasanya mild or asymptomatic. Jadi apa yang ditakutin? Kita bisa bilang seperti itu kan. Tapi kalau kita cancel pemberian breastfeeding atau ASI ini, sangat kerugian yang kita alami untuk si baby itu sangat besar. Tapi kalau kita lanjutkan, kita tidak kehilangan benefit dari menyusui itu sendiri, tapi resiko yang kita hadapi juga sangat kecil. Kalaupun sampai positif pun ringan atau tidak bergejala. Seperti itu.
Okay, this is the next question about COVID-19. Dr. Anissa, does sunlight or vitamin D and vitamin C prevent COVID-19 infection, Dok?
Okay, now as we know and as we already discussed this, sebelumnya kita udah diskusi ya di topik episode temanku sehat sebelumnya about vitamin D, tentang vitamin D, about sunlight, jadi exposure to the sunlight atau sinar matahari, kemudian pemakaian vitamin C yang jor-joran, too much using vitamin C for prevent the COVID-19 infection. How is the recommendation? Jadi kalau for the, as we know, the prevalence atau prevalensi dari deficiency vitamin D deficiency is quite high. So beside from intake of the food like the milk, fish and egg ya, fish product and dairy products. Jadi kita udah bahas sebelumnya, kita harus makan vitamin D yang dari sumber yang cukup ya, dari produk susu, telur, ikan ya, yang seperti kita bahas kemarin. We have to activate, kita harus aktifkan vitamin D ini dengan sinar matahari, because we need the sunlight to activate this vitamin D. So exposure to sunlight is important. Is this especially in this COVID-19 that we don't have the antibody yet, we don't have now we have antivirus, but not too much medicine yet. So what we have to do is to increase our immune system. Jadi kita harus tingkatkan sistem imun ini. One of the way is to increase your vitamin D level of your body. Jadi tingkatkan kadar vitamin D tubuh Anda. Kebutuhannya sekitar 500 sampai 800 international unit per hari ya, 500 under 800 international unit per day ya. And then you have to exposure your body around 10 until 15 minutes ya. Berjemur sekitar 10 sampai 15 menit around 10 o'clock or in the morning or afternoon around 3 o'clock. Jadi sekitar jam 3 sore juga boleh. Jadi so why this prevent COVID-19? Two factor. Jadi ada dua alasan kenapa vitamin D khususnya pada infeksi COVID-19 ini penting. Satu, untuk meningkatkan sistem imun kita, karena sistem imun kita juga sangat membutuhkan kadar vitamin D. Our immune system really needed the vitamin D normal level to make our immune system can maintain the immune system in the good level or good to protect our body. Secondly, this vitamin D it's said that it can prevent exaggerated of the hyper or sistem imun. Jadi bisa mencegah terjadinya respon imun yang berlebihan. Tadi kan kita udah bahas kalau COVID-19 itu berbahayanya karena respon imun yang berlebihan, yang kita sebut sebagai badai sitokin atau cytokine storm. Ya, the dangerous of COVID-19 infection, besides the infection direct itself, indirectly is dangerous because of the respond immune system that too much or exaggerated. We call it as a cytokine storm. Jadi the response immunes become too much and it can make can broken the cells in the lung. Let's say like that. One of the mechanism. Nah, so if this vitamin D level, if enough, we increase the vitamin D level until the level that normal level, it can prevent or help this response immunes that too much for this COVID-19 infection. So want to increase our immune system, but also prevent to exaggerated response immune in the COVID-19 infection. About vitamin C.
About vitamin C and vitamin D. This is a question about how to increase our immune system.
About vitamin C.
About vitamin C and D.
Actually, people also take it too much. Take too much supplementation of vitamin C. Even though actually we need it only around 100 until 200 milligram for daily requirement. Jadi kita hanya butuh 100 sampai 200 milligram in normal condition. In very severe infection or sepsis or critically ill, we needed more vitamin C as antioxidants. But this only very, as we know, the heavy infection or severe infection is around only 5 until 15% of cases. So no need everybody take too much until 1,000 milligram vitamin C every day. It's can make side effect for you. The benefit is not clear if you not in severe infection, but you can get the side effect. Jadi kalau berlebihan minumnya, jadi kayak saya katakan pasien saya minum yang 500 mg
a day,
suplemen satu tabletnya 500 sampai 1000 mg, padahal dia bukan lagi sakit yang kritis atau bukan lagi sepsis. Jadi nggak buat apa, tidak dibutuhkan, tapi efek sampingnya malah bisa membuat dia become gastric, jadi dia jadi asam lambungnya naik dan bisa mual muntah dan yang bisa sampai terjadi pembentukan batu ginjal. So have to know when you need the high dose of vitamin C, and if you want to take it daily, just take it what you need it. So around 100 until 200 milligram per day. Maximum. Next.
Dokter. This is the next question is about dexamethasone. In some
newspaper
or
media,
we can found about dexamethasone can kill COVID-19.
And become new drugs. They say like this.
Become new drugs in this era COVID-19, and what your
Opinion.
Dok?
Okay, thank you, Mbak Maria. Yeah, around maybe 3 or 4 months ago, yeah, we before this remdesivir, yeah, people telling, well, we found new drugs that can prevent death of the COVID-19, can cure COVID-19. Jadi waktu itu ada headline-nya, saya ingat banget di internet atau di koran ya. Jadi kan sekarang juga udah online ya. Jadi katanya obat baru dexamethasone, obat baru corona. Nah, dan kita semua para dokter like what? Karena dexamethasone merupakan obat yang sudah sangat lama, Maria. Jadi merupakan salah satu steroid atau salah satu obat yang menekan sistem imun, tergantung dosisnya, bisa dari antiinflamasi jika dosisnya ringan atau anti radang, hingga bisa imun supresan atau mensupresi sistem imun jika dosisnya kita tingkatkan. Dan sering juga kita temui pada yang dikatakan jamu-jamuan tradisional, dan sebenarnya mereka masukkan yang kita sebut obat dewa ini. So as we know that dexamethasone is anti-inflammation or immune suppressant. So in COVID-19, yes, it is true. In this around 5 until 15 severe case of jadi severe case of COVID-19. Jadi hanya pada kasus yang berat, ya sedang berat mungkin 5-15% when they experience this overreactive or hyper system immune or exaggerated system immune, jadi too much system immune response immune. Jadi kalau terlalu banyak respon imun yang akan mendestruksi tubuh kita. Jadi jika ada suatu infeksi, maka tentu akan mengaktifkan sistem imun kita. Tapi kalau sistem imun kita sendiri itu menjadi sangat berlebihan, pada saat infeksinya sudah menurun, malah sel-sel tubuh kita atau organ-organ kita akan rusak, bukan karena infeksi itu, tapi karena proses dari sistem imun yang berlebihan itu. So the dangerous or the danger, yeah, or what make the COVID-19 infection become more severe or become make death is because mostly is because of the hyper system immune. So this dexamethasone that can suppress or can decrease the over system immune or this hyper system immune, of course this can help to cure, or decrease the mortality. But also we have to careful and know when we will give it. Jadi kita juga harus tahu kapan kita berikan. Because if we give it too early, kalau kita berikan terlalu awal, it can blunt or decrease the system immune. If we give it too early, because we needed our system immune to wake up, to working properly to kill this virus. So don't give it too early also. Jadi jangan diberikan terlalu awal juga, karena kalau dari awal dia menekan sistem imun yang baru mau bangun, malah itu virusnya malah jadi nggak ada yang jagain, nggak ada yang merespon dari imun. But when we give it, when there is maybe in the progress of the we know this is too much or hyper response immune, and there is maybe the virus itself or the infection itself already decreased, but the system immune too much, yeah, for the cytokine storm also too much, we can see the sign of the hyper response immune. We can give this dexamethasone or immunosuppressant with certain dose, ya, dengan dosis tertentu to make the response immune not too much, so not break or destroy our organs.
Okay.
And this is not new drugs.
This is not new drugs. Okay, this is the last question about COVID-19, the most popular question about COVID-19. Dr. Anissa,
okay.
How to disinfect house of COVID-19 patient?
Okay, so many patients when they only have mild infection or even asymptomatic, but they want to check and they proven to be positive confirmed case of corona, and they have to come home. So all people will asking, so how we have to clean, how you disinfect the house, or if because another member of family of course don't want to get. So one of the, like I said before, one of we have to take care is the high traffic surfaces. So first we have to keep our mind how it's this COVID-19 can be transmitted. Jadi gimana, yang paling penting adalah kita harus tahu bagaimana penularan COVID-19 ya. Jadi yang kita sudah ketahui Mbak Maria dan kita sudah bahas di episode sebelumnya bahwa terutama adalah melalui droplet ya, droplet yang ukurnya lebih besar atau aerosol yang lebih kecil. Kalau aerosol bisa bertahan berapa hari Mbak Maria di udara? Nah, itu bisa sampai berhari-hari, 1-3 hari kalau aerosol, terutama pada ruangan tertutup dengan ventilasi yang kurang. Jadi usahakan ventilasi itu baik, buka jendela besar-besar, biarkan matahari masuk, sehingga kalau droplet sih dia tidak terlalu lama stay. Virus itu stay di droplet tidak lama. The virus more longer stay in aerosol. It can stay until 1, 2, or 3 days. So you have to keep your ventilation of your house. It's good. You open all the window. Try to make ventilation as much as possible. What is ventilation? Ventilation is the exchange of the air. So the exchange of the air more good. So it's more good for dilute the concentrate of the virus in the aerosol. Also it's so the risk of infection is become decrease. Jadi kalau ventilasinya bagus, udaranya banyak, pertukarannya baik, otomatis kemungkinan virus yang ada di aerosol itu dia jadi lebih sedikit. Jadi resiko penularan jadi lebih kayak diencerkan gitu kan. Kalau kita konsentrasinya lebih sedikit kalau exchange udaranya baik. Sehingga itu sangat penting. Ventilation is very important ya. Jadi because this the most we afraid if is this aerosol transmitting mechanism. Jadi yang kita takut itu aerosol, karena kan dia bisa stay di udara berhari-hari. Jadi kalau di kantor, that's why people so much cases after the patient go, or the people go to office. Because the office usually closed, then ventilation not very good, so this aerosol can stay for 3 days from the people that may be positive but have asymptomatic, so they can give infection to the another. Why? Even though they not near talking in the range of 2 meter or 1.5 meter and no droplets, but this aerosol can bring the infection in the not good ventilated area. Jadi kalau di kantor, biarpun kamu nggak ngomong deket, karena kan kalau bisa stay 2 meter ya minimal, 1,5 sampai 2 meter. Kalau bisa jaga sampai 3 meter. Nah dia padahal nggak close contact nih, nggak 3 meter, tapi kok tetap kena dari temannya ya, karena aerosol ini dia bertahan virusnya sampai berhari-hari, padahal kita tahu di lingkungan kantornya itu ventilasinya kurang. This number one. So keep the ventilation good. Of course, if from the droplet you have to social distancing 2 meter or if possible 3 meter. Jadi minimal jaga jarak minimal banget 1,5. Ada yang bilang juga 1, tapi sebenarnya rekomendasinya sekitar 1,8 atau 2 meter. Kalau bisa sampai 3 meter is much better. Ya, jadi itu lebih baik kalau bisa sampai 3 meter. Kemudian ventilasi diperbaiki. Kemudian tentu saja sering mencuci tangan dengan air, sabun minimal 60 detik atau dengan hand sanitizer. Apalagi jangan sering menyentuh dengan tangan kita itu. Don't touch your mouth, nose, or eyes ya, jangan sentuh. Kalau kita yang penularan lain adalah selain dengan aerosol, droplet tadi, kenapa sentuh-sentuh namanya contact. Jadi surface contact it's another mechanism of the transmission of the infection. Jadi sentuh dari tangan kita ini juga merupakan mekanisme penularan yang harus kita perhatikan. Sehingga kalau kita supaya nggak nyentuh-nyentuh gimana? the high traffic surfaces, jadi yang we have to clean as much as possible. Jadi permukaan yang high traffic yang sering tersentuh tadi, apa aja tadi Mbak Maria udah saya sebutin? Pegangan pintu, tombol lift, elevator, kemudian apapun yang banyak disentuh harus sering dibersihkan, tentu saja dengan disinfektan ya, atau ya alkohol atau disinfektan lain ya, dengan minimal 60 atau 70% ya, dan banyak sekali disinfektan yang memang untuk permukaan, untuk benda. Jadi disinfektan yang lain ini tidak boleh terkena kulit kita karena bukan buat manusia tapi buat permukaan. Karena pada permukaan plastik, stainless itu bisa stay virusnya bisa stay until 3 days. Jadi kalau kita punya banyak disentuh-sentuh oleh yang mungkin positif tapi tidak bergejala ataupun bergejala, virusnya bisa stay di situ, di permukaan yang high traffic surface itu bisa sampai 1, 2, atau 3 hari. Jadi kalau kita pegang juga, terus tapi nggak cuma kita pegang tapi kita sentuh, touch mata, hidung atau mulut kita, we can become infected. Jadi sering-seringlah, number 1 apa?
Cuci tangan.
Wash your hand, make the ventilation good for the mechanism of aerosol and droplets. Of course, use mask so you cannot touch that. And every time you touch your mask, and after you touch, you have to also wash your hand. Jadi mau pakai masker sama mau buka masker, cuci tangan. Oke, gitu Mbak Maria.
Okay, that's all about the most popular question about COVID-19. Hopefully we can help you about your question about COVID-19. Please share, like, and subscribe our YouTube channel Temanku Sehat. Bye-bye.